January 14th, 1982, pre-dawn, a Caterpillar D9H pushing through compacted Sierra snowpack stalls hard against a frozen wall at Donner Summit, 7,056 feet above sea level. The blade doesn't give an inch. The machine sits. While Interstate 80 is closed behind the machine, 6,000 loaded semi-trucks and tens of thousands of passenger vehicles wait on both sides of the pass. Every hour the road stays shut. Millions of dollars in cargo sit idle. The only tools powerful enough to break this situation loose are the largest crawler tractors in the Caltrans fleet. A Caterpillar D8 working the shoulder had already hit its limit on the same drift that stopped the D9H. This is the story of what those machines were up against every winter at one of America's most snow-buried mountain passes. The machines came first. The answers followed them through 40 seasons of frozen Sierra nights. Donner Pass sits at 7,056 feet in California's northern Sierra Nevada. 9 miles west of Truckee and directly astride the main east-west corridor between California and Nevada. The pass was carved by glaciers and shaped by centuries of weather. Interstate 80 crosses Donner Summit carrying roughly 30,000 vehicles every day. Among them, approximately 6,000 are commercial semi-trucks moving cargo valued at $4 to $8 million per hour, making every closure a compounding economic emergency. Donner Summit averages nearly 400 inches of snow per year, more than 33 feet of accumulation. Caltrans is solely responsible for keeping a 4-lane interstate open and moving through every inch of it. Caltrans built the Kingvale Maintenance Station on the western slope of Donner Summit as the operational nerve center for winter clearing on E80. During major storms, down up to 100 workers rotated through 12-hour shifts around the clock. Early snow removal on Donner Summit depended primarily on truck-mounted plows and motor graders. They managed fresh accumulation, but when storms compounded and drifts hardened into ice-bonded walls, the lighter machines reached their limits quickly. By the early 1970s, Caltrans District 3 had begun deploying Caterpillar D8 and D9 track-type bulldozers alongside its plow fleet. These crawler dozers were designed for raw earth moving, and at Donner Summit that earth was frozen water. The D9H entered production in 1974 with 410 horsepower, making it the most powerful conventional track-type tractor Caterpillar had built at the time. On Donner Summit, that power was not excess, it was the minimum required. Caltrans paired the D9H with Caterpillar D8 bulldozers for shoulder and interchange work. The D8 was suited for precise clearing along guardrails and bridge approaches where the D9H was simply too large to operate safely. If you want to see how the D9H and D8 fought their way through one of the most punishing snowpacks in Sierra Nevada history, here's what I ask. See that subscribe button? It's our exchange, your way of saying this reached you. Hit subscribe if this resonated, drop a like if it moved you, and tell us in the comments what you know about Donner Pass. It helps us share more stories like this. Back to the D9H. Each winter season deepened the institutional knowledge at Kingvale. Operators who returned year after year developed an understanding of how Sierra snow behaved at altitude, how the same storm total could produce entirely different clearing conditions depending on storm temperature. Night shifts ran sundown to sunup through January and February. Operators leaving Kingvale in darkness and returning in darkness. Reflective stakes planted before the first storm of each season marked the road edge when headlights found nothing else. Fresh powder was manageable. The danger came from rain then freeze cycles, nights of wet snow followed by a temperature drop that turned snowbanks into concrete hard ice walls 8 feet high along the highway shoulders. Operators attacked hardened snowbanks at angle, using the blade corner to shear the ice face before committing to a full push. A straight head-on assault against a frozen wall could stall the machine and destroy the cutting edge. The mechanical evolution of bulldozers, history's most punishing projects, and the technical details no one else covers, that's what lives in the membership section. Join, and you get full access to 20-plus minute deep dives built for people like you. Now back to the D9H on Donner Summit. In 1980, Caterpillar introduced the D9L with 460 horsepower and a new elevated drive sprocket undercarriage. The redesigned undercarriage reduced stress on the final drives and increased ground clearance, which proved critical in deep, consolidated Sierra snowpack. Caltrans acquired D9L units for Kingvale within the model's first production years. Operators who had run the D9H immediately noticed the D9L tracked more cleanly through soft snow and delivered blade power more efficiently under sustained high-load conditions. Donner Summit's snowpack built in layers, fresh accumulation pressing down on partially frozen mass, or each freeze cycle compressing the structure further. By midwinter, the banks flanking I-80 had become stratified columns of compressed ice, sometimes 8 feet tall. When a D9L's blade struck a stratified ice wall at push speed, the impact traveled back through the push arms and into the main frame. While the machine told the operator what it was hitting, layer by layer. Clearing the travel lanes was only part of the operation. The removed snow had to be pushed far enough beyond the highway shoulder that the next storm's accumulation would not fill back over what had just been cleared. Windrowing, pushing snow into a continuous ridge before repositioning it with subsequent passes, was standard on wide interstate sections. Near the summit, the drop-off uphill and the guardrail downhill left almost no margin for error. Cold temperatures amplified every mechanical vulnerability. Hydraulic fluid thickened in the blade cylinders at 15 and 20 degrees below zero, making blade response sluggish through the first hour of each shift until the machine reached operating temperature. Operators held the D9L at idle for 30 minutes before heavy blade work in extreme cold. So Caterpillar specs required full operating temperature before sustained high-load dozing, a disciplined Kingvale crews enforced to protect the final drives. Track icing was a persistent vulnerability in Sierra snow operations. Wet, dense snow packed into the undercarriage and froze around the carrier rollers and idlers, sometimes locking the track mid-push during critical clearing passes on I-80. The recovery was to reverse, raise the blade, and let vibration break the ice free from the undercarriage. At 7,000 feet in a blizzard with traffic backed for miles, those recovery seconds stretched into something heavier. And the D8L was released in 1982 with 335 horsepower and weighed approximately 84,000 pounds. Where the D9L broke the primary snowmass, the D8L followed, cleaning residual accumulation, shaping the berm, and clearing around bridge structures and guardrails. Bridge decks iced faster than road surfaces, elevated and exposed on all sides to wind chill. The D8L operator floated the blade 2 inches above the deck to avoid tearing expansion joints. Learned technique, not guesswork. The Donner Lake interchange required a specific clearing sequence. If on-ramp and off-ramp approaches filled during a storm and were not cleared in the correct order, snow pushed from one ramp would drift back across the main lane. Operators developed clearing sequences based on storm intensity and prevailing wind direction. A northwest wind could drive snow back across the westbound lanes even as the D9L pushed east, requiring the same section to be cleared twice. At peak clearing intensity, both machines ran continuously, trading operators at shift change without shutdown. Caterpillar D8 and D9 engines were engineered for extended high-load operation, and Donner Summit tested that engineering every season. Fuel consumption during peak clearing was significant. The D9L pushing hard through compacted snowpack burned through its tank in under 8 hours, so Kingvale positioned fuel trucks on the highway to keep the bulldozers running without returning to base. If these stories mean something to you, take a look at the thanks button below this video. It's a small gesture, but it's the most direct way to say you want more of this. Let's continue with the D9L on Donner Summit. By the mid-1980s, Caltrans District 3 had refined its Donner Summit snow removal methodology into one of the most coordinated heavy equipment operations in the American West. The D9L and D8L formed the backbone of every major clearing response. The most severe single-season accumulation in modern Sierra Nevada record came in 2011, when nearly 58 feet of snow fell across the full winter season. Donner Summit was buried under totals that halted train service for 6 consecutive days. Caltrans responded to the 2011 winter with every asset in its inventory. D9 and D8 bulldozers worked alongside fleets of rotary snowblowers and motor graders, attacking accumulations on I-80 that built faster than a single machine class could clear. Rotary snowblowers handled bulk loose accumulation efficiently, but compacted ice slowed them to a crawl. So the bulldozers led every approach, had 8 and D9 blades breaking the hardened core so the blowers could process the debris that followed. When the longtime Kingvale operators described a reality that storm totals alone couldn't capture. 2 storms with identical accumulation could produce entirely different snowpack behavior. Temperature at the time of accumulation changed everything about how a blade engaged that snow. Wet, a warm temperature snow clung to the blade face like cement and had to be rolled rather than pushed. Cold, dry powder moved cleanly but drifted back into cleared lanes within minutes of a blade pass in sustained high wind. Just experienced D9 operators adjusted blade angle and attack pitch on every pass. Small incremental changes that maximized the snow roll off the blade face and prevented material from packing into the blade corners and deadening the push. When I-80 closed, the nearest alternate truck route lay 400 miles south at Tehachapi Pass. Every hour the summit stayed shut, tens of millions of dollars in stalled cargo compounded on both sides of the Sierra Nevada. That economic pressure shaped how Caltrans prioritized its equipment. The D9L was kept fueled, serviced, and staged at all times during winter months. The machines went out ahead of peak conditions, not after them. Working ahead of a storm was the core operational philosophy at Kingvale. Moving snow before it compacted meant each new storm deposited onto cleared surface, under reducing the total volume the bulldozers would need to break through when conditions peaked. Modern Caterpillar dozers working at Donner Summit now carry GPS-integrated blade control and onboard diagnostics unavailable when the D9H first arrived at Kingvale. The technology evolved considerably. So the Sierra Nevada snowpack remained indifferent to all of it. The Kingvale Maintenance Station remains operational today, its dormitory and equipment bays updated but anchored on the same principle that has defined it from the beginning. The mountain will storm, and the machines will go out. Plus, Caltrans now deploys avalanche control teams to trigger controlled slides before storm peaks, reducing the unplanned mass the bulldozers face. It is the same problem solved one layer earlier, the D8 and D9 still waiting when the snow settles. So the D9H, stalled on January 14, 1982, was freed by morning through operator skill and manual effort. The crew chipped back the ice face to give the blade room to re-engage. I-80 reopened before the first shift ended. The D9H was refueled, serviced, and back on the line by midday. The same machine, the same mountain, the next storm already building over the Pacific. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe. Your support helps us preserve these machines and the histories behind them. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from.